Today, I will tell you my story, and you wish me luck and write where you are from in the comments. My name is Eleanor. I am 76 years old, and most days the quiet is louder than any noise I remember from my past. People think old age comes with wisdom and peace. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it comes with unanswered questions, empty chairs, and memories that refuse to let you sleep. This is my story, not because it is special, but because it is painfully ordinary. When my family was whole, there was a time when my house was never quiet. My husband, Robert, used to hum while shaving in the morning. My daughter, Susan, slammed doors when she was angry. My son, Michael, ran through the hallway like the floor belonged only to him. Back then, I believed that no matter how hard life became, family would always come back to the same table. I was wrong. My husband, Silence Robert, and I were married for 48 years. He was not a romantic man. He showed love through routine, fixing things without being asked, bringing home bread every evening, warming my hands in winter without a word. When he got sick, he tried to hide it. I'm fine, he said, even when I could see fear in his eyes. Cancer doesn't care about pride. I sat beside his hospital bed every day. I memorized the rhythm of machines. I learned how loneliness feels even when someone is lying right next to you. Our children visited at first, then work became busy. Then life became complicated. On the night Robert died, it was just me and a nurse holding his hand. That was the first time I understood what abandonment truly felt like. After the funeral, people tell you, call me if you need anything. They don't mean it. After the funeral, the house felt enormous. I slept on my side of the bed and left his untouched, as if he might return. Susan lived in another state. Michael lived only 20 minutes away. I thought at least one of them would come often. Weeks passed, then months. My son, Michael, was always my sensitive one. As a child, he cried easily. As a teenager, he locked himself in his room. As an adult, he became distant in a way I never learned how to reach. When I called him, he answered politely. Hi, Mom. Always polite, never warm. He had a wife now, 2 children, a full life. I was no longer part of the picture, just a frame hanging on a wall. The first Christmas alone, the first Christmas without Robert, was unbearable. I cooked too much food out of habit. I set the table for 4 before realizing what I had done. Susan called in the morning. We'll come next year, she said. Michael sent a text. Merry Christmas, Mom. I ate dinner alone. I cried into my napkin like a child. My daughter's distant Susan used to call me her best friend. After marriage, after children, after time, I became an obligation. She said she was busy. I believed her. One day I stopped calling. She didn't notice. Becoming a memory while still alive, the hardest part of aging isn't pain, it's invisibility. Doctors talk over you, cashiers rush you, family forgets you exist unless reminded. I used to think being needed was exhausting. Now I understand how terrifying it is not to be needed at all. He fall one afternoon. I slipped in the bathroom. Nothing dramatic, but I couldn't get up. I lay on the floor for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was how it would end. When I finally reached the phone, I called Michael. He didn't answer. I called Susan. Voicemail. The ambulance came. Strangers carried me out of my own home. The hospital question A, nurse, asked me gently, do you have family we can contact? Yes, I said. Who should we call? I opened my mouth, then closed it. No one, I whispered. What hurt more than the injury, Michael visited 2 days later. He stood by my bed, uncomfortable. I didn't know it was serious. He said. I smiled. I didn't want to bother you. He nodded, and that was it. No hug, no apology, no promise. The thought I couldn't escape that night, alone in the hospital, I realized something unbearable. My children love me, but not enough to show it, and love that stays silent feels exactly like absence. When I was discharged from the hospital, no one came to take me home. A volunteer drove me instead. a kind woman with tired eyes who didn't ask questions. She helped me into the car, adjusted the seatbelt, and wished me well, as if we were old friends. I thanked her more times than necessary. When you're lonely, kindness feels enormous. Returning to an empty house, the house smelled different when I came back. Too clean, too still. I moved carefully, afraid of falling again, afraid of reminding myself how fragile I had become. I noticed small things, a light bulb that needed changing, a cabinet door that didn't close properly. Robert would have fixed them. I made tea and sat at the table. Two chairs remained empty. Learning not to ask, I told myself I would not ask my children for help. Not because I didn't need it, but because meeting them hurt more than being alone. When Michael called, I told him I was fine. When Susan messaged, I replied with short, cheerful sentences. I became skilled at pretending. Watching my family from a distance, Michael sent photos of his children sometimes, birthday parties, school events, smiling faces. I stared at those pictures for a long time. I wondered if they knew my name, if they recognized my face. Once I asked Michael if I could visit. There was a pause. We're busy these days, he said. Maybe later. Later never came. My place in their lives, I began to understand my role. I was not needed. I was tolerated, a presence that existed best from afar. The realization did not come all at once. It arrived slowly, like winter, quietly, but completely. A conversation I will never forget. Susan finally visited one afternoon, almost a year after Robert's death. She looked older, tired. We drank tea in silence. You seem lonely, Mom, she said finally. I nodded. You should make friends, she added. Join a club or something. I smiled. She meant well, but she didn't understand. You don't replace family with hobbies. The question that changed me that night, I asked myself, if I disappeared tomorrow, how long would it take them to notice? The answer frightened me. The drawer of memories, I started sorting through old things, photographs, letters, school drawings. There was a picture of Michael holding my hand on his first day of school. He looked scared. I remembered telling him, I'm right here. I wondered when he stopped believing that. Growing older quietly, my world became smaller. Grocery store, doctor home, days passed without conversation. Sometimes I spoke out loud just to hear a human voice. The second fall, it happened in the kitchen this time. I sat on the floor, pain spreading slowly, patiently. This time, I didn't call my children. I called an ambulance directly. It felt like admitting defeat. What no one talks about, people talk about loneliness like it's sadness. It's not. It's erasure. It's realizing your life continues, but without witnesses. A letter I almost wrote. I thought about writing to my children, not to accuse, just to explain, but I was afraid, afraid they would feel burdened, afraid they would distance themselves even more. So I stayed silent. Again, the truth I finally accepted: my children did not abandon me because they hated me. They abandoned me because they didn't need me anymore. And society teaches us that need is the only thing worth responding to. Preparing for what comes next, I began preparing, not for death, but for acceptance. I adjusted my expectations. I stopped waiting. And strangely, the waiting had been the most painful part. Old age teaches you strange lessons. One of them is this: you don't stop loving people just because they stop choosing you. The doctor's appointment. The doctor spoke carefully, choosing his words like fragile glass. Your heart is weaker than it should be, he said. Nothing urgent right now, but you shouldn't be alone all the time. That sentence followed me home. You shouldn't be alone. I laughed quietly when I locked my door behind me. The call, I hesitated to make it, took me 3 days to call my children. 3 days of rehearsing sentences that wouldn't sound like begging. Michael answered first. Hi, Mom. I saw the doctor. I said, they're worried about my heart. There was a pause. That's not great, he said. But you'll be okay, right? I don't know, I replied, honestly. Another pause. Well, he said slowly, we're kind of overwhelmed right now. Overwhelmed. I thanked him for listening and ended the call before my voice could betray me. Susan reacted similarly, concern in her tone, distance in her actions. Understanding my place that night, I finally admitted the truth to myself. My children cared, but from a safe distance. I was no longer someone they built their lives around. I was a responsibility they hoped would remain quiet. The things no one notices, no one notices. When an old woman stops buying groceries in bulk, when she stops cooking real meals, when she sits in the dark to save electricity. These are silent goodbyes. Sorting my life, I began organizing my home. Not because I planned to leave, but because I didn't want to leave chaos behind. I labeled drawers. I threw away things no one would want. I kept only memories, photos, letters, a scarf Robert once gave me. The letter one evening, my hands trembling slightly, I wrote a letter, not angry, not accusing, honest. I told my children I loved them. I told them I was proud. And then I wrote something I had never said out loud. I have been lonely for a long time. I folded the letter carefully and I placed it in a drawer. I still wasn't brave enough to send it. The night I fell again, it was late. I got up to get water. The floor was cold. My foot slipped. This time the pain was worse. I lay there staring at the ceiling, waiting for panic. It never came. Instead, I felt tired. I thought about Robert. I thought about my children as children. I thought about how love begins loudly and ends quietly. The ambulance, when I woke up in the hospital, it was morning. A nurse smiled kindly. "You gave us a scare," she said. She asked the familiar question, "Do you have family we should notify?" I opened my mouth. Then I shook my head. "No," I said, "not right now." The days in the hospital days passed slowly. Nurses came and went. Families visited other patients. Flowers filled rooms that weren't mine. I watched from my bed, pretending not to notice. Michael called once. Susan sent a message. Both sounded relieved when they learned I was stable. Neither came. The truth that hurt the most. It wasn't the absence that hurt. It was the understanding. They trusted that I would survive without them. And I had taught them that lesson myself. The decision one night, unable to sleep, I made a decision. I would stop chasing, stop waiting, stop hoping for versions of my children that no longer existed. I would let them go while still loving them. Sending the letter the next morning, I asked a nurse for help. She smiled gently as she placed the letter into an envelope. "Someone important?" she asked. "My children," I said. She nodded, as if she understood more than I had said. Returning home changed. When I returned home, the house felt different. Not emptier, just honest. I sat in my chair by the window. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for a phone call. I was resting. What I finally learned: love doesn't guarantee closeness. Sacrifice doesn't guarantee gratitude. And motherhood doesn't end, even when your children have already moved on. The letter reached my children a week after I sent it. I know because Susan called first. Her voice sounded unfamiliar, softer, unsteady. "Mom," she said, "why didn't you tell us it was this bad?" I looked at my hands, thin now, older than I remembered. "I did tell you," I said gently, just not loudly. She didn't answer right away. Michael called later that evening. "I read your letter 3 times," he said. "I didn't know you felt so alone." I closed my eyes. "That's the thing," I replied. "Loneliness doesn't announce itself, it just settles in." He was quiet for a long moment. "I thought you were strong," he said finally. I almost smiled. "I was," I said. "That's why you didn't notice." What regret sounds like: they didn't apologize the way movies teach us to expect. There were no dramatic speeches, no tears through the phone, just regret, quiet and heavy. And regret always arrives late. Their visit, they came together the following Sunday. Susan hugged me tightly, as if afraid I might disappear in her arms. Michael stood nearby, unsure. The house felt different with them in it, familiar and distant. We talked about small things: weather, traffic, the children. No one mentioned the years that had passed. Some silences are too large to cross. What I did not say, I didn't say. Where were you when I fell? Where were you when I needed you? Because love isn't a courtroom, and I didn't want my final memories to be accusations. The truth between us before they left, Michael looked at me and said we should have done better. I nodded. Yes, I said, but we're here now. And I meant it. My last weeks, my strength faded quietly. I slept more. I ate less. But I wasn't afraid. Susan called every few days. Michael checked in when he could. Not perfect, but present. And presence mattered. The night I felt ready, one night, sitting by the window, I felt something settle inside me. Not sadness, completion. I thought about my life, the love I gave, the mistakes I made, the years I survived. I had loved deeply. That had to be enough. The morning I didn't wake up, I went to sleep holding Robert's scarf. The house was quiet, peaceful. I did not wake up. After I was gone, Michael found the drawer, photos, notes, old letters, and one final page written slowly, carefully. If you are reading this, please don't blame yourself. Love doesn't always live the way we expect it to. Be gentle with each other. And remember, I loved you longer than you know. Susan cried when she read it. Michael held the paper for a long time. What remains, I am gone, but I am not lost. I live in memories, in regret turned into care, in lessons learned, too late, but learned. If you are listening to this story and someone came to mind, call them, visit them. Don't wait. One day, silence will answer instead. The end.